The next gentleman needs no introduction. That's because I forgot to ask him for one, so we'll just do this one extemporaneously. Folks, he's been on Portland television for nearly 20 years, every night, coing with Jim Little, and now he's been over at KPTV and KPDX as well. He's the chief meteorologist there. He's also on the executive council of the AMS. He's held several positions here over the years. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mark Nelsen. Okay, so like I say each year, I like to kind of wrap up the winter, see what happened last year, because a lot of times we forget. Okay, in fact, when I put this together, I put part of it together in March, but then the other part I put together maybe a few weeks before the meeting. And I always go, wow, that happened. And then Steve often helps by reminding me, because a lot of you don't know Steve, but he's kind of a weather geek. And he must have folders of weather graphs and maps and stuff. I mean, I have a lot, but he has like double the number. They're all in his head. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's see. This goes forward. So winter 2010-2011. I would say it was a fun beginning and end, but kind of vanilla in the middle. November was exciting. There we go. December, January. There we go. And early February. That would be the vanilla part. December, January, and early February. And then things got a bit more interesting in late February through March. Okay, here's the United States view. I think I go through several months here. November 2010, we were a little cooler than average. Remember, we started cool and then we had a little Arctic blast. More on that in a minute. Rest of the country, yeah, a little above average. The warmer colors are above average. Okay, and then December, ooh, it turned cold across the eastern part of the U.S. The dark blue is record cold. And then we turned a little mild in December. December was a pretty mild, wet month. January, a little warmer than average again. Notice the East Coast, remember, everything was breaking loose back there. Big snowstorms. And then our turn came for a little more excitement in February. Now this is interesting because this is the whole month of February, and really our weather didn't change for the colder and wetter, these are temperatures, but colder and wetter until the second half of the month. So we were still well below average, even though it was really only the second half of the month that was chilly. So if you take the whole winter, this is the United States. It was a cold winter across the United States when you go December, January, and February. We were about average. Parts of our area were below average. And then if you were to put March into it, I think March was below average. So yeah, a little below average here. Somebody said, yeah, George? I thought I heard you. Okay. It's just northwest winter temperatures the last 100 years. This is the whole Pacific Northwest. So with relatively close to average, we've had a few below, a few above. The last really cold winter was in '93, it looks like. But we've had some warm ones there as well. Lots of graphs and charts. See, I have as many as Steve. And then this is just kind of a general view of why we were warm or cold. The basic idea here, these are upper level heights, 500 millibars, which is about 18,000 feet, where you see red and orange. That's higher than average. Not always, but sometimes leading to warmer than average weather. In the blue areas, lower than average heights over us when we talk about ridging or troughing. Not much of any anomaly along the west coast in November. December, we had a big trough offshore, not over us, but offshore, just close to us. So lots of storminess coming in from the west and southwest. That kept us pretty mild. We have lots of cloud cover in the winter. We're generally mild. And then you can see back east, all that warm air over the eastern Canada, but really cold across the eastern United States. That's when they were getting all the big storms. January, same sort of general pattern there on the east coast. Cool. And the big storms there, I think still in January. And then really mild here in January. Okay. And then things change in February. Second half of the month, that trough moved closer to us. I think I have March here, which showed, yeah, there you go. Late February and March really is what this would be. Big trough back along the west coast. Storms start coming in, but they're colder storms this time. So we had snow close to sea level or at sea level. So a little more detail. Cooler and wetter than average in November. Winter storm season kicked in quickly. Good snow in the Cascades to start off with. First November Arctic blast since '85. 18-degree low here in Portland on the 23rd. And it was our coldest November average temperature since 1993. I'm sorry, the 18 was the coldest temperature in November. 30-degree high on the 23rd. That was the coldest high temperature we've had in Portland since 1985. And our first November snow in Portland in 8 years, 0.3 inch, very impressive. Remember that evening we had the flurries, first live local storm coverage. Okay. December, not a real memorable month. I remember Steve saying, I don't even remember what happened in December. That was in February, I think. Except we had that little tornado down in AUMSVILLE on the 14th. What was it? Oh yeah, near snow event on the 18th, but it didn't actually snow. And then a week downslope wind event where the wind comes off the Cascades, 50-mile-per-hour gusts up there in Battleground. Hawkinson is a hot spot for that usually. And then Christmas break was pretty quiet. I had a week off, and I don't think I missed anything. Oh yeah, that's right. Another near miss on December 29th. That day sounds familiar. 28th, 29th? That was a big disaster the year before where we had the horrible commute and the rain and the snow mixed with snow, and some of us really messed up that one. Okay, AUMSVILLE tornado, EF2. A bunch of facts there for you to read. We'll keep it moving here. All these slides will be available on the AMS page, right?
By Sunday night.
Oregon chapter AMS page, because I'll fly through these, because we got to keep it moving, because you want to hear the forecast. So, little tornado down there. We did learn maybe in the media. This picture circulated around. I think we showed it on the air a time or two. I don't know if others. Some of the other media may have used it as well, possibly. And then I remember cluing in, like, wait, the trees are all green. Because you don't think of that in the middle of the moment. And then so we realized that was from a Monroe, Washington tornado. But people will send in a lot of stuff now on the internet saying, hey, you know, I got a picture here. I got it from a friend. It's usually, I got it from a friend. So we got to be really careful in the media. Then in January, cold east wind event the first week. I would argue that that first week of January was colder to any regular person than any other week of the winter because we had 6 days, high temperatures mid to upper 30s, east wind was blowing, lows in the low 20s. That was, the November event was colder, but it only lasted maybe 2 days. So then we had this little issue where the public thought a blizzard was coming maybe not with the word blizzard, but they thought for day after day we were talking about, oh, big cold spell coming next week, this could be a series of snowstorms. Models, boy, we were excited. The emails are flying back and forth. Do the weather geeks remember that? Yeah. And then about 3 days before, the model started backing off and moving the jet stream a little bit farther north, which brought the south wind in, which was going to bring the south wind in. So we all need to be careful, I think, in the future. As I heard about that, like in March and April, people where I live were like, where's the snowstorm you had coming? So people, you can do a 100% forecast. They're going to remember when you said, when they heard on TV, oh, there might be 20 inches of snow next Tuesday. I'm not saying I said that, and I didn't say that, but, okay? So instead we had a little mini ice storm east metro. And see that little weather sensor at Vista House there? We do have a weather sensor. I got together with the parks folks, and it's not actually working today because the computer went down. But, so for this winter we should get some nice high wind speeds. We already had 78 a couple weeks ago, 78 mile-per-hour gusts. So very windy spot. We'll see how long it lasts. January, mild second week and beyond. We had some flooding, big flooding actually on the Sandy River, third highest crest of all time on the Sandy River. From 8 or 9 inches of, I think we had 9 inches of rain up on Mount Hood on top of the snowpack. Lots of damage on the upper Sandy. And then I call it midwinter big snooze. Nothing really happened for 4 or 5 weeks. It's just dead. And then about Valentine's Day, we turned cool and wet. Inside of that cool and wet spell was an unusual late season Arctic blast. Bunch of facts here. Latest 18-degree reading ever in Portland. I think that came from Seattle. High temperature 33 on the same day. To keep a high temperature, I think it was sunny then too, right? Yeah. So to keep the high temperature in the low 30s in late February, it's pretty tough to do with that strong late February sunshine. It's pretty cold air mass.
Mark, the first
yes,
one
Steve?
there, the coldest low temperature for that late in the season ever. So.
Oh yeah.
It's
There were so many facts, Steve, you gave me, I couldn't put them all. I tried. But you got it in, didn't you? That's okay. Officially 1.5 inches of snow. That was our second snowfall on the 24th. Some parts of Vancouver had 3 inches. That was the big, we had a little batch of showers pass through Vancouver and Orchards, and suddenly just in, was it 2 hours? Bang. Instant,
11,
instant snow sledding for the kids.
10:30 to 12:39.
Yeah, that was exciting. Now, just for the record, I got a flashing, so it's all official here. We had 2 official snowfalls in Portland. I got this from the Weather Service guys. The 2 I mentioned, one in January, one in February, so we'll call it 2 official snowfalls, okay? We had 1 very weak ice storm, and we didn't have a windstorm except for the second one there. A little squall line went through the valley on the 13th. Calm conditions. Suddenly we had about 15 minutes of gusts, 45 to 60 miles per hour. This was widespread from Portland all the way down to Eugene, and then back to calm a few minutes later. So there wasn't as much damage as you would expect with a gust of 55 at PDX, and it was also from the west-southwest, which is a somewhat unusual direction. But we have to officially call that, yes, I guess we had a mini windstorm because it did gust to 55, but it lasted 15 minutes. Here are the peak gusts. And like I said, this will all be on the website, but I colored that last year's 55 in red because it was kind of odd. But you can see the peak gusts for the last, I don't know, 25 years. Is that a generation back to the mid-80s? It's scary. East wind season, those of you out in the eastern part of Multnomah County, Clark County, a lot less last year because when we had a lot of storms moving through in a lot of La Nina winters, we don't get the long periods of high pressure east side which funnel the wind through the gorge. So it wasn't quite as bad. Lowest temperature 18 at PDX for the whole winter. There you go, lots of numbers. Let's talk snow. Last 12 winters. I use this when I go to school visits for kids. When they say, is it going to snow? I say, well, if you hit one of those big winters, yeah, but it doesn't snow a lot here. Does anybody know why? I'm sorry, it doesn't snow. It's because we live near the mild ocean. But thanks. Ignore the 2010s and just put that in there so it's ready to go for next year. That only includes the 2010s only includs the 1 point, what do we have, 1.8 inches last winter.
1.8.
Thank you. So you see there's a little blip up in the 2000s. 24-inch winter helped. This is just downtown data. Wasn't that Steve, you're the snowmaster. Wasn't the 1980s? There might have been some missing stuff downtown. Yeah, I don't believe that.
Also from 83 to 86 when we had all the snow.
Who was running that KGW weather station in the 80s?
No comment.
Okay, so mountain snowpack. I'm going to run out of time here. Mountain snowpack, we fell behind in January. Oh, the green line is last winter. Average is the other line, the bluish color. Notice this is just below timberline, 5,000 feet or so. We were getting way behind late January, early February. Then we made it all up by the time we got to late April, early May. A delayed melt. And then when it did melt, it did finally go. But look at that. The end of July, early August was the last snow at timberline. A little lower elevation down to Sandy M Junction. I think that's their little ODOT station there. Way below average. Getting worried at the end of, it didn't look like La Nina at the end of January, early February, but then, whoo, look at it make up through late March and April. So huge snowpack in the end. It was just a little delayed. Seems like our season's late. Spring, go through these quickly. Second extremely challenging spring for gardening. I'm a big gardener. I'm building a greenhouse right now because I've had enough. Okay? Record or near record coldest spring or early summer, but not abnormally wet after April. Actually, it was dry as I recall. This is Climate Division 2, which is the western valleys, maybe some of the hills around, and you can see how cold this is. What is this? April, May, June. Look at that. The worst since the mid-50s. Coldest, I should say. And we've had a bunch of cold mud springs. Well, 2 or 3, I guess. Okay, this is from Steve. Hail and snowfall in April. Yes. Big downpour. Was there thunder with it? It was one of those really heavy afternoon cells. You can see it on the lower right there. Actually produced not only hail, but a whole bunch of snow. Like Steve said, it stuck to trees because I didn't believe him. I thought he was, enhancing. You have to be careful when people call because sometimes, you get excited about weather. Maybe have bigger numbers than everybody else. But snowfall snarled Clark County evening commute in April. So that was kind of cool. Summer of 2011. Oh man, the first part of summer was horrible. Second coldest May through July on record in the Pacific Northwest. Now the graph is Climate Division 2, that same area where most of us live here. May, June, and July. Look at that. Coldest since 55. And then June, July, August. See, it could have been August saved us, and you'll see September really saved us. June, July, and August could have been worse. Those were the green tomato summers there. 1983, 1993. Okay. So, September. I actually got a few red tomatoes, even up at 1,000 feet in Corbett. So, September really kind of evened things out a little bit. Water year rain at PDX are wettest since 98, 99. That's a rainfall from October through September. Good luck, forecasters. Try not to lose your head. My boss wouldn't let me put this on Twitter, Facebook, or on the air, or anywhere else. Somebody cut out my head on June 6th on a huge banner. And it looks like it was done maybe hanging upside down or from the top, because the cuts are going up. So I kept expecting somebody to show up, or I expected like some sort of ransom, like somebody in their garage who would do it like that. But she would not let me mention it because they were afraid it would lead to copycat cuttings. So let's see how we do for forecasting this year. Is there one more slide? Let's see. When was that, Steve?
That wasn't in there the other day.
We made, just like our forecast, we had to make some minor refining.
Where's Chuck at?
Chuck is back there. Yeah, he's back there. When was that?
107? Why did my indicator say
That was at Burgerville 5 years ago.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
That was
Anyway,
Photoshop, by the way, on the one.
Oh, it's Photoshop. Okay. So anyway, we'll see what happens this year. I think we're overdue for a windstorm, but I've said that like 10 years in a row. Pete Parsons, you taught me the clock is right twice a day. I'd actually never heard that all the way into my 20s. Hard to believe. So someday we'll be right and it'll be a big windstorm.
All right, thank you.